Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. I'm your host, John Nerrell. This is the show for mid-career professionals who feel stuck, undervalued, or unsure what's next, and know that doing more isn't the answer. Here we focus on how you show up, and that means how you make clearer decisions, build influence, and take control of your career. Let's get started. I've got something really special for you today, and in a moment, you will hear my conversation with Joe Mazzarello. Joe is the owner of Mazzarello Home Improvements, and he is based in Ohio, here in the United States. Joe is referred to me by a mutual friend because of his incredible story. Now, I'm intentionally being vague here because I want Joe to tell you his story. That's his job. However, I want to pre-alert you because Joe will share some elements of his story that involve his accident, and we talk about certain aspects of his accident and recovery, and that may be triggering for some listeners, so listener discretion is advised. Joe's story is more than just resilience and perseverance. You will hear how Joe's accident really shifted his mindset to a place of incredible gratitude and what it meant for him to not only own his story, but to simply tell it and to tell it in a way without any expectations for how it was received. Joe is an example of how we can all show up as our best selves. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Joe Mazzarello. Joe Mazzarello, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, big shout out to our friend Dean Cox for introducing us and connecting us. I really appreciate that. You've got an amazing story, my friend.
Yeah.
So Joe, we always start off with, what was your mid-career moment? Please tell us.
Well, that would have to be my accident, actually. I was an elevator mechanic for many years, worked my way up the ranks, apprentice, helper, then became mechanic. And one day I was doing pretty much a run-of-the-mill job called a cable shortening, something I've done a million times before, and finished up the job. My helper was cleaning up the tools, and I went upstairs into the motor room, which is on top of the building, to just kind of check the machine, what you normally do after a job. And I'm walking around this machine as it's running, and the machine is basically like a motor that turns a giant steel pulley, like a big, maybe 3-foot diameter steel pulley. And I'm just walking around the machine, making sure it's going good. And as I walk around the machine, I kind of slipped. It could be a little greasy in those motor rooms sometimes. And I slipped. And if you've ever slipped on ice, maybe one foot goes out in front of you and you put your arms out to your sides to kind of catch your balance. Well, I had a rag in my left hand when I did that. And the rag caught one of the steel cables that goes over that big pulley, which is called a shiv. But the rag caught one of those steel cables and it pulled my arm into that shiv. And it sucked me in there and it grabbed my entire arm from the forearm down and was still spinning. So it kind of picked me up and cartwheeled me over the machine. It spit me out and threw me into the wall. And I do remember kind of landing there on the floor, not really knowing what was going on. And I stood up, and it's funny, my first thought in my head was, why does this machine sound so funny? I just fixed this thing. It should be good. But that was me. That was the sound of me. And first thing I did was I felt some like something on my foot. And when I looked, I just saw blood dripping onto my shoe. That's when I noticed my arm. And I had ran over to the stairs where my helper was downstairs cleaning up the tools. And I remember just yelling, "Yo," down the stairs. And my helper came running up and he looked at me and he went, "What did you do?" And I said, "I don't know, but you got to call somebody." I was in shock. So I remember laying down on the motor room floor, waiting for the paramedics, which felt like it took days, but apparently they took 4 minutes from what I heard. And the paramedics came. They literally sat me in a wheelchair and kind of plastic wrapped me to the wheelchair and then wheeled me downstairs, put me in the ambulance and brought me to the hospital. And then 7 surgeries later, I luckily still had an arm, thankfully. I had some really good surgeons there because, yeah, the way my arm looked when I got hurt was something I've never seen before. I mean, the best way I could describe it was, you know how if you grab a soda can at both ends and you crush it in your hands?
Hmm.
That's kind of what happened from my fist to my elbow. My arm just kind of got crushed and it was pretty gnarly. There were things hanging
Yeah.
out of my arm that I didn't even know were in an arm. So, yeah, it was wild.
So, Joe, first of all, thank you for sharing that with us because it certainly sounds horrific and traumatic. And I'm curious in that moment when you were laying up against the wall and coming to and trying to figure out all what happened, when, if any, did like panic set in for you?
Um, right at the beginning. Like I said, when I felt something on my foot, I looked at my foot and I saw the blood dripping, and that's when I kind of realized what had happened. Because before that, I thought it was just something wrong with the machine. And then when I saw my arm, I was like, oh, I know what just happened. I just got
Mhm.
hurt in this machine. And that's I think when I started to panic a little bit. I mean, unfortunately, I never blacked out during that whole thing. I kind of wish I did in hindsight, but I mean, I
Right.
was awake for the whole thing. And yeah, I was panicking a little bit, but uh, yeah, probably the whole time I was panicking while there. And then once I got to the hospital, I mean, the last thing I remember at the hospital was getting put on a table. I felt those cold scissors cutting all my clothes off from my ankles up to my collar. And they pulled my clothes off like that magic trick when you pull like the tablecloth off and all the
Yeah.
plates and cups stay. My clothes came right off. The mask went over my face, and I was out in seconds. And I woke up 11 hours later after my first surgery.
Oh,
And, and I
wow.
was still pretty panicked then too because I was still very confused and I didn't have a working arm and it was wild. It was a crazy moment.
Now, this happened to your left arm, correct?
My left arm. Thankfully, I'm a righty. Yeah.
Okay, so I was just going to ask you that. Okay, so that's, I don't want to say that's good because it's not good, but at
Yeah,
the
but
same
it's
time, it's not your dominant hand,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
How long after the accident did it take for you to get back to work?
Well, after the accident came a lot of occupational therapy, physical
Mhm.
therapy. I mean, that stuff lasted about a year. And then after that, I was home on workers' compensation, kind of healing up and stuff. My arm definitely wasn't, in working condition. But as I was healing up and my arm started to get better, I started honestly just getting bored with staying home. And oh, well, actually, also during that time while I was healing up, I had lived in New York, and my sister, we're super close, we're like best friends, and she was my neighbor at the time. And she got a job promotion out to Ohio. So I said, you know what? I'm out of work. I'm going with you. So I went to Ohio, and that's where I was kind of doing most of my healing here in Ohio. And then, like I said, I was sitting around, not doing much, not working, and that's not me. I'm not the kind of guy who could sit still for very long. I mean, you already have me sitting here for longer than I sit most of the time. But so I was thinking of what to do. I had already left New York, so I wasn't an elevator mechanic anymore.
Mhm.
And I figured try my hand at maybe doing some handyman work, which is actually my, original line of work. My grandfather was a home improvement contractor. My father was a home improvement contractor. So I decided, hey, maybe while I'm, healing up, maybe I could just grab a couple small jobs here and there to make a few bucks. But in doing that and grabbing those jobs started to accumulate and the jobs started getting bigger and bigger. And then eventually I said, you know what? This is what I'm doing. And it's good because that's what I actually really like to do too. I mean, elevators was a great job, but my passion is home improvement for sure.
So today, your work looks like what?
Today, I do all types of residential interior remodeling and renovations. I mean, I take care of anything from small handyman work like installing a faucet to fully remodeling your kitchens and bathrooms.
Mhm. So for the listener who is
Mhm.
is trying to piece together all these elements of your story, right? Because we're kind of getting to the part now about like, okay, so your accident happened how long ago?
That was 2015, my accident. So 11 years ago.
So 11 years ago, right? And now you have your own company. Do you have
Mhm.
people who work for you as well?
Right now, just one employee who's also my nephew, and we work together every day.
Nice.
Great. Yeah.
Good. I love a family business.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
it. Oh, yeah.
So, what was that like for you, essentially having to restart? Because for so many people who are listening, right, they find that, they've gone through a reorg, they've lost their job, or they didn't perform well on a job, they lost their employment. And it's obviously a different situation than yours, but from a thought process or even the emotional side of it, the restart is similar in a lot of ways. What was
Yeah.
that restart like for you?
Um, a little scary, but I'm also the type of person who doesn't like to not be able to do things. So it was, when I thought about the limitations that I do have with my hand and my wrist and my arm, that just didn't sit well with me. And I didn't like that, I didn't like just thinking, oh, I can't do this line of work because I have a bad left arm. I started more thinking like, how can I do this line of work with a bad left arm? And I just kind of dove into it. And I mean, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, but slowly I just started working and proving myself to myself, realizing through these little jobs that I'm doing, like, hey, I can do this. Maybe I could take on more. Maybe I can take on more. And I might not use my hand and stuff exactly the way that I used to, but I learned new ways of doing things, which kind of, broadened my horizons, so to speak.
Yeah. And sounds like doesn't hold you back in any way either.
I don't let it hold me back. No, no. I mean, there are little things that I can't do that, I won't say hold me back, but they just kind of caused me to change how I do things.
Mhm.
Like I can't quite lift things the exact same way, but I just gotta, turn my arm a different way or use a different part of my arm. But it was all kind of that learning curve to get back to
Yeah.
what I really wanted to do.
Joe, you're someone who is clearly very skilled, right? You've
I
got you've
try to
got
be.
tremendous home improvement skills, mechanical skills and things like that. In your healing and your recovery post surgery, did you ever consider doing something different? And by different I mean not the labor intensive type jobs that you currently do today.
The thought crossed my mind. It did cross my mind, like, maybe I should get a job that, I don't need to do any heavy lifting or things like that. But like I said, that like I feel like I'm just so drawn to this kind of work. I love, you know, just getting in there and turning wrenches and figuring things out and learning how they work that it just didn't sit well with me to not use my hands and do some kind of blue collar work. That was always just
Sure.
my passion.
In I'm hesitating here because I'm trying to find like the exact right word I have to say, and I may screw this up. So forgive me if I do. But like
No problem.
in your recovery, in your journey, right, to get to where you are today, was there a time when you were working for somebody else? Were you doing any of that kind of work?
Yes, actually, when I said that, I was healing up and then I started doing handyman jobs. The way that started is I thought, let me just see if I can get a few hours of work a week just to kind of dip my toe in the industry. And so I actually went on Craigslist and I was looking for carpenters who wanted a helper. I just wanted to be a helper, and I thought, I'll just hand some guy tools. At least I'll be on the job. I'll be involved somehow. And I started working for a guy who was about my age and he had his own business. And, in working with him, I was already kind of, more advanced than just a helper. I had been doing this kind of work for a long time. I learned a lot from my dad and stuff. So I quickly became on the same level as that guy who had hired me. I wasn't just a helper. And then after a while with working with him, I started bringing my own jobs in that we would do together. And then eventually he had his own jobs and I was bringing in jobs. So we kind of just parted ways on very good terms and everything. But
Sure.
I just started bringing in my own jobs and thought, I got these to take care of. He has his jobs to take care of. So that just kind of kick started me off into doing my own thing.
So take us back to that moment when you're looking on Craigslist, you're trying to find some helper type jobs, you're reaching out to people. Because one of the things that a lot of people who listen to this show struggle with is they struggle with how they tell their story.
Hmm.
And they find sometimes, and it's a common trap we all face at some point where like you feel like as if you have to convince someone you can do the job. So in a corporate job, let's say they might say, "Oh, I'm really dependable, I'm reliable, I'm a great communicator," and honestly, they don't care about that because that's expected, right? But
Hmm.
they get this convincing type energy in terms of how they tell their story. You've got a story that nobody has, right? It's unique to you, and we all have our own unique stories, but you have a very monumental event that happened, right?
Hmm.
And so now you're looking at going back into doing similar type work. And you're meeting people, you're meeting contractors to potentially hire you. You have to tell your story.
Hmm.
What advice would you give the listeners in terms of what you felt was most helpful in terms of how you told your story?
Um, just start telling it. That's like what first off, like, I feel like any kind of situation like that, it feels awkward to tell your story. It's odd. People don't want to talk about things like that. But I feel like kind of any awkward situation can be solved by just diving in. Just tell the story and then see what happens. And you're just going to kind of learn from telling your story,
Mhm.
and I also don't be so concerned with how the other people are going to take that story too. I mean, my story is what my story is, and how people take that, that's fine. But I just feel like my work speaks for itself too. I don't really have to convince anybody why I'm able to do this job. I could just show you. So, I've always been the type of guy who tries to outwork everybody around me. And so that's really what it is. I kind of let my actions tell that story for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you just said, which, and I'll paraphrase here for a second, which was not getting tied up or wrapped up into what other people think about your story.
Hmm.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. It is.
How did you maneuver that to just not not get so wrapped up in the outcome or what other people think about your story?
Well, actually, I feel like I've always been the type of person who I'm gonna walk towards the uncomfortable situation. I
Mhm.
feel like if you stay comfortable, then you're not going to really get better or advance. Like, I want to put myself in that uncomfortable situation because every uncomfortable situation you put yourself in, you can learn from. You really don't learn much by hitting home runs every time or staying safe. You
Mhm.
learn from doing what makes you feel a little bit awkward or makes you feel a little bit nervous, and then just see what happens. And then when you come out of that situation, you're going to say, this went right, this went wrong, but you're going to have something to take to the next time that'll make you even better.
Mhm. When you look back on these past 11 years, what's the
Mhm.
biggest thing you've learned from your injury?
Um, there's always a silver lining. Always. I mean, something as bad as this. I mean, I thought the world was over when my injury happened. I mean, I thought, all types of working with my hands was going to be finished, and that was like who I was too. And I thought just my whole identity was gone. But when I look back, I would not change anything about that day because if I didn't get hurt, I never would have moved to Ohio. I never would have met my wife in Ohio. I never would have had my daughter. I never would have started my own business. So, I mean, as crazy as it is to say, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would still get hurt 100%.
Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of gratitude in that.
Oh yeah, I am very, like, it's weird to say, but I'm very thankful that I got hurt. Really. I mean, I wish this all could have worked out without me getting hurt, but the fact that it did was really the jump start to my new life and who I really enjoy being. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm very happy in my life right now. I love my wife, love my daughter, love my job. I enjoy getting up every day and just doing what I do. And I couldn't ask for more, honestly.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
All right. I am someone who does not do well around blood. I
Yeah.
just don't. Okay. I've got a weak stomach. I mean, whenever they have to draw blood at the doctor's office or whatever, I can't even look. Like it's
Yeah.
right. Are you that kind of person or did that stuff not freak you out?
You know, I'm not a good like broken bone guy. Like,
Okay.
you ever see like those videos, like,
Oh,
people
yeah.
falling in when someone breaks a bone or something, I can't really look at that. I don't like that. But I'm not as bad with blood. I'm really not. I don't mind getting shots at the doctor. I watch the needle go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, but I mean, I don't care how much you like you're okay with blood or broken bones. Seeing your own arm though is something else. I mean, I one thing that stands out about my injury, I remember when I first looked at my arm, I have never seen the color white as a bone. It was the
Oh,
whitest
wow.
white I've ever seen, and like it that caught my eye. The first thing I saw when I looked at my arm was this white thing sticking out, and it took me by surprise. And I realized I was like, wow, that's a bone. I've never
Oh,
seen anything
wow.
like that
Okay.
before. Before that day, I had never broken a single bone until I broke like almost all of them from the elbow down.
Mm.
I mean, I had completely shattered my forearm. My wrist was completely crushed into pretty much like little bits. Like my
Yeah.
wrist was shattered, and then all my fingers were broken. It's actually wild when they brought me into the hospital. I remember there were firefighters that were sent back to the building to look for my fingers.
Oh my
But
gosh.
when they were doing the surgery, they realized I had all my fingers. They were just kind of crushed into my arm.
Okay.
So everything was still there, but yeah, my injury was a lot of shattered parts. I mean, I was held together with a lot of pins. I had an what they call an external fixator on my arm, like a big exoskeleton for about six
Yeah.
months. So yeah, there was
Yeah.
yeah, pretty.
How much pain are you in today from it?
Today, I am not in much pain at all, thankfully.
Okay.
A lot of people say, like, oh, I bet it hurts when it rains or whatever. It really doesn't. I'm lucky that it doesn't hurt when it rains. I don't get that. I have limitations,
Mhm.
but they're not really painful. Like,
Okay.
I don't make a full fist with my left hand. I don't have full use of my wrist. It doesn't move as well as my right wrist. But as far as pain, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect.
Got it. Good for you.
I had some
That's
great surgeons too. Shout out to those surgeons. I mean, they were
sure.
great, man. They were awesome.
It sounds like your medical team was just top notch and
Oh,
exactly where they needed to be.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you was when when people go through an event such as yours, um, and look, I had a neighbor years ago who said if all of our problems were shoes, and we took those shoes and we threw them all into the corner with everybody else's shoes, we would always pick our own because they're the ones that are most comfortable,
Hmm.
right? When you think about everything you've been through, how do you how do you handle or process somebody who, let's say, you might perceive them or know them as a complainer, a whiner, everything is a big deal. And you're like, look, I had my arm shattered. I know what hardship is, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Does that frustrate or bother you when you hear somebody kind of just incessantly just kind of complaining and whining about stuff on a regular basis?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit because, I just feel like, stop complaining and get in there and figure it out. Whatever you're complaining about, there's an answer to it, and complaining isn't, you're not finding any answers complaining. So stop
Yeah.
complaining and just get in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I love and appreciate your attitude so much about how, you know, anything can be figured out.
A hundred
Right.
percent.
We just
Yeah.
have to figure that out and do that. What does work look like for you in the upcoming years? Like what's next for you in your business, or are you personally and professionally? What's the next thing for you that you're most looking forward to?
Well, just bigger, better job. Well, all right, here's what I'm looking forward to. My nephew learning more and being able to do things on his own. I mean, that's like I'm putting all the knowledge that my dad gave me, everything I've learned from my own experience. I'm teaching I mean, he works right by my side, my nephew, every day. So I teach him every little tip and trick that I've ever learned. And I could see it in him that he's already growing and he's learning things. I mean, we'll be working together and he's already starting to say like, "Hey Joe, did you forget to do this and that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you did." And it's nice to see that. Like that means, things are sticking. He's really using his head. And I would just love to see him just advance and get better. And then eventually, my nephew will just be able to handle a job on his own. I mean, that would make me so happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you've got everything in place to correctly develop and train him and everything. So I wish you all the best with that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so good. Joe, this has been a wonderful conversation. I thank you for sharing your story, for being so open with us about it and what you've been through and have learned. As we wrap up the show, the one question I always ask people is, what advice would you give them to help them build their mid-career GPS?
Well, similar to what we just talked about, get in there. Whatever you think that you want to do, don't let the fear of the unknown stop you. I mean, mistakes are your friend. So don't be afraid of making them. I know it sounds weird. I enjoy mistakes in a way because, when you make mistakes, that means that you just learned something. So if you're trying to start something new and you're not sure how to go about it or what to do first, just take a step. It doesn't have to be the correct one, because when you take a step, two things are going to happen. You're either going to say, "Hey, that was the right step and I'm where I want to be," or you're going to say, "That wasn't the right step. I should have done this." And then go do that and take another step, and you're going to learn something that way too. So just get in there. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, and just go for it. Don't complain. Just go. Well, everybody complains, but just, still go for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Right. No, Joe, thank you so very much for that. Hey, if people want to learn more about you, find you, connect with you, hire you, if they're in the Ohio area, what have you, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Tell us all the great places where people can connect.
Oh, well, the easiest place to find me would probably be Instagram at Mazzarello Home Improvements. You could see me on there. I'm posting on there every day. I show pictures of my work. I even have some funny stuff and all sorts of stuff on there. So that's probably the easiest way to find me and connect with me.
Great. I will make sure that is in the show notes. I'm going to give you a follow as well as soon as we're off this recording. So you get another follower there.
Thank you.
Joe Mazzarello, thank you so very much for being a wonderful guest on the Mid-Career GPS podcast.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right.
All right, my friends, if there's one thing I just want to leave you with as we wrap up this episode is this. We all have a story, and Joe is so kind enough to share his story with us. And whatever you take away from Joe's episode and our conversation today, somewhere at some point, just offer up a little thank you, Joe Mazzarello. Just offer up a little thanks to him for sharing his story and what he taught you today, because one of the things that he definitely taught me that I'm taking away from is, we all have something. And that something is something we can really be grateful for. And that's something we get to work through. And as we build our mid-career GPS to whatever is next, that something may just be the thing we need to get us to whatever is next. So until next time, remember this: you will build your mid-career GPS 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how you show up matters. Make it a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Kindly share it with someone who needs it. And if you're tired of feeling stuck, overlooked, or underutilized in your career, go to my website, johnnarrell.com, to get started. There you'll find free resources, ways to work with me, and details about the Show Up Leadership Lab, my signature membership for mid-career professionals who want to lead better, get noticed, and elevate their career. All the links are in the show notes. You can grab what you need right there. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're getting value from the show, take 30 seconds to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, how you show up matters, and I'll see you next time.